The Anambra elections have come and gone, and celebrations are still in the air, although mixed reactions also follow through. Now, that's because many have highlighted some of the many anomalies that did happen over the weekend, from voter apathy to monies that were being shared, and not forgetting to a can of malt and sausage that actually attributed to one selling the future of his votes. That's not all. While there were so much mixed reactions concerning the Anambra elections, the incumbent governor did celebrate his victory, coming back for a second term and looking forward to do more for Ndi Anambra. But let's take a look at this video, and then we'll come back and look into the Anambra elections properly.
Through the campaign, and the Americans will say, you ain't seen nothing yet. I want to say it again and again loudly, that with this trust, in partnership with all our stakeholders, in partnership with you, Ndi Anambra, in partnership with religious leaders, with our traditional and community leaders, with our traders, businessmen and women, in partnership with the petty traders, the hawkers, the wheelbarrow pushers, in partnership with the ordinary men and women of Ndi Anambra, we, over the next 4 years, can say loudly that we ain't seen nothing yet. We ain't seen nothing. As I promised you, we're turning on to Gear 4, beginning from March. Probably we're now on Gear 2, heading to Gear 3, as it were, but we'll be getting into Gear 4 from March. To you, Ndi Anambra, once again, we will never thank you enough for renewing our employment for the next 4 years. And then to, again, a sense of gratitude. Gratitude to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, for being a very true Democrat. He's demonstrated very firmly, he said so severally, that all mean to guarantee free, fair, transparent election. And so we commend you and thank you, Mr. President, for being a very true Democrat and realizing we are in a true multi-party democracy. Let the votes count, and the people spoke loudly here in Anambra. To the Independent National Electoral Commission, I must very specifically thank you, and thank in particular the new INEC chairman, Professor Joash Ojo Amopitan, SAN. This is your very first outing. As the saying goes, you don't have a second chance to create a first impression. And I am very excited that your very first impression is a very emphatic one.
Well said. A victory speech indeed from the governor of Anambra State, celebrating and saying thank you to all, and also listing out the things that he will be doing. But joining us live in the studio to have a complete review of what went down over the weekend, we do have Professor Simeon Unna, who joins us this morning. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Central.
Good morning.
I'm sure you followed the elections all through, right?
Of course I did.
It was indeed a fantastic one. Many have said kudos to INEC, but the question is the other pocket-sized issues that we did see in the elections. Is it enough for us to say it wasn't a good one?
I don't think it's enough. I think, although one will argue that the current INEC chair didn't have much contribution because everything has been packaged before he got there. So all he did was to dish out 1 or 2 instructions here and there. We're actually going to see his performance in the coming off-cycle elections of Ekiti and the Osun. That's actually when he'll be tested. For this, it's not a test for him. I can say that for free.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what was your general analysis of the election? Would you say that if you were to grade the election, how would you grade it?
You see, you will always compare 2 issues. If I'm comparing it with the last election in Anambra, I would say there's an improvement. Because even the turnout of voters, although the last one was about 20, this is about 22%. Yeah. Now, he won with about 300 and something, now about 400 and something votes. So you see, there's a little improvement. But that does not mean that, that it's Uhuru. It's not Uhuru, because we still recorded one death in the last election on Saturday, you know, from Orumba South, Ward 1, the councillor and the Anambra councillor that was killed. But if you compare it with the last election, governorship election in that state, there were a lot of, you know, people were maimed and things were destroyed. But in this particular one, I think the security outfit were up to date with what was going on, up to speed rather, with what was going on. However, like I said, there are issues. There was a particular video we saw that a man went and asked the returning officer, where is the results? Where's the result sheet? He said she wasn't given, that one of the officers said they are going to bring it, but that was about 1 p.m. or so. There was no result sheet, and the man alleged that the result sheet was somewhere in somebody's house and being thumbprinted. You see, we had such issues. We had issues like, you know, overvoting. There was a particular ward that they said they had 500 registered voters, and the number of votes that turned out from that was higher than, that's a normal scenario in Nigerian. But I think going forward, the new chair should try and ensure that some of those things are a thing of the past.
Okay. Now, looking at the elections that just passed on Saturday, would you say they were free and fair?
It depends on where you're looking at it from. Well,
because when you look at the margin, when you look at the margin,
it might be free but not fair. It might be free but not fair, and I will explain what I mean. It might be free because people were not impeded to vote, but it might not be very fair because there was vote buying. Even before the election, we even saw the governor promising people that he's going to give them money if they win the local government for him and stuff. That's what I am concerned. On the day of the election proper, we even saw somebody complaining that others got 20,000 and they got XYZ naira. We had issues of sharing, like you mentioned earlier, gala and malt and what have you. I was listening to one analyst on one of the TV stations. He said, if you go to any election and they give you gala or bread, don't chew, because you might chew the naira inside. so you see, the election may have been free, but was not fair.
Okay. My next question to you would be about what you think were the factors that ensured that Professor Chukwuma Soludo re-emerged as governor of Anambra State. Would you say that is because he has done an excellent job as governor of Anambra State? Or would you say it's because the other opposition parties did not present strong enough candidates to match him at the election?
There was no opposition, one. Secondly, Anambra is a legacy state for the Apathy, as they call it. You know, recall that it's Ojukwo's party, so that name is still being respected. So no matter who flies the flag of Apuga, they will win that election. You see, I heard people say Obi lost in his unit. Obi is not in the ballot. And I want people to know that Anambra, hold on, Anambra is not Labour. Anambra votes for Obi, not for Labour. And right now, Obi is neither here nor there. Nobody even knows where he is going. And you can see that it's only people are even touting that he's going to ADC. And if you look at the result of that unit, who won? So that's the issue. So it's not as if the Anambra people don't like Obi. No. That is far from the truth. Very, very far from the truth. So anybody who is pushing that narrative does not understand the Anambra and how their voting pattern. Let Obi be in the ballot. Nobody is going to get a vote from Anambra.
Are you sure about that?
I'm telling you, when I mean nobody will get a vote, I mean that they won't get up to 2-3% votes. That's what I mean.
Prof, let's talk about this very disturbing pattern of voter apathy. I mean, 22% returning the governor is quite very low. It's below a pass mark. What factors do you think are responsible for this, and how can we get the people more interested? It's beyond getting your voter's card and, you know, actually doing the actual voting. Or are there any other factors?
We have said it time without number, for the risk of sounding like a broken record. The facts are there that there is voter apathy because people believe that their votes don't count. It is the courts that gives us the governors and the head of state and what have you, not the people's vote. So people at the day of election will say, why will I go and waste my time, stand under the sun?
Okay, but this is a staggered election.
Yeah, it's a staggered election. Is it different from the main election? Recall the last Osun election, the one that brought in the blue, no, the
Oyetola.
Oyetola. Yeah. You know, it was too close to call, and the call came from Abuja, and they said the result should be suspended. And some wards were cancelled, or units were cancelled, so that their delegate that would have won didn't win, was not announced. And then when the election was, when they now did those local governments or wards that were, now they now imported people. We saw it. This one is not story. We saw people were imported to Osun, and eventually the person they wanted to won. Sorry. So at the end of the day, what are we talking here? People know that their votes don't count. It is the courts that determines who becomes governor or who becomes head of state.
But the court didn't make Soludo governor in his first term. And he's won overwhelmingly this time around.
In every 12, you must have a Judas. That does not make the others Judases. So that this one is an exception does not mean that going forward, they will not accept.
Yeah, because people watching at home, young Nigerians watching at home and thinking 2027 will be discouraged by what you're saying, because...
Why would that be? That's the truth. So because they will discourage, one will not say the truth? No, I don't understand. That is the truth. But if you look at Anambra election, you'll find out that is a different ball game. You won't compare it with what happened in Edo, for instance. You saw that the election was manipulated. Nobody can tell me anything about that. But in that of Anambra, from 1999 to date, it's been that trajectory.
So is there any hope in changing things for 2027?
Well, we're looking at just the new INEC chief. If he puts his feet on the ground, he can change things. Why do I say so? We still have Nigerians that have integrity. Look at JAMB. JAMB was taking money from federal government, subvention from central government, until they got there. When he got there, he is now remitting billions or millions of naira, hundreds of millions of naira to federal government. So we still have people, forget the glitches he had the last time. He borrowed the leaf from INEC. And they had the glitch in the last jab. In the last jab. Yeah. But outside that, the man hasn't performing. So we say the way it is. He's been performing, so give it to him. So if Josh will follow his footsteps, or follow the footsteps of the OT in Abia in the last election, the returning officer in the last, Professor OT, that stood her ground. A woman at that matter. The one in Enugu chickened out and went to Abuja, and Abuja announced results. Is that what should be done? These are the things we are saying. But this lady stood her ground and said, no, I'm not going nowhere. But said, well, I'll declare this result. And she went ahead and declared the result. Heavens didn't fall, because heavens have not fallen before. It will not start now.
Okay, so what are the next steps in terms of, I know that the opposition, the APC, has said that they do not agree with this. We had these people who guests on the show yesterday from the ABC, from the obedience movement. They say they criticized the number of what had happened, and they said they're going to pull together their evidence. And I remember asking the guests that, but your leader, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has congratulated Professor Charles Soludo. So what would be the next steps? And he said that when they pull the evidence of all the anomalies that happened at the election, they believe they'll get the approval of Mr. President to go ahead.
Nothing is going to happen. Let me tell you why they are saying so. They are saying so because recall that before that election, Professor Soludo said he was going to support the president in 2027.
Yeah.
So, and he called himself the adopted son of APC. However, during the campaigns, the president sent the Senate president and the chairman of the party and some other members of the party to go campaign for the APC candidates. And if you listen to that video, what the Senate president said was that they have a son, so they cannot leave their son and go for an adopted son. So that gave the APC guy the impression that the president have left Soludo to support him. I think that's where this is coming from. But at the end of the day, you saw the show he put up. Even in his ward, there were reports of massive vote buying. In the word of the APC governorship candidates, there were reports of massive vote buying. So I don't know what they are going. I'm not from Anambra, but I can tell you succinctly that it resonates with me that Soludo won that election fair and square.
All right. Just finally, from our end, I mean, we're asking these questions because I know you followed closely the elections, especially all through the weekend. My follow-up question would be, now that we've used this as a litmus test ahead of what is coming in 2027, do you think we'd have a better chance to have more people come out and vote happily, knowing fully well that what they saw play out this weekend gives them a little glimpse of hope that 2027 will be better?
Let me correct an impression. I said it earlier that this is not going to be a litmus test for the current chairman. What is going to be a litmus test for him will be the Osun and the Kiti.
Yeah.
Because this one, he didn't, he didn't even add the icing on the cake.
His approval
he just kept to the sharing.
But he did the delivery. And delivery is that because you can bake the cake and do the icing. If the delivery person does not take it to the recipient, there's a problem.
I think even the delivery had been packaged. It was just a question of, okay, you do this, you do that. That happened. So it is actually the Osun and the Kiti elections that he will start from scratch and package. So when that comes out and comes out fine, then we can succinctly say that that's a litmus test for what's going to happen in 2027. Recall that after they do election, APC said that this is the template they are going to use for 2027. So we have all those things at the background. So let this new INEC chair come and prove that those things were just rhetorics. Until that is done, we still stick to our guns that, look, the courts are still there for what is going to happen.
My final question to you before we wrap things up is the Governor Chukwuma Soludo in his victory speech there, he referenced the Americans. He said Americans will say, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah.
And we know second-term governors, they don't have anything to lose. They're not seeking for a third term. Most of them would likely retire in the Senate as senators and, you know, do a few legacy projects here and there. So when he says you ain't seen nothing yet, does he still have the impetus to do more and promise? And how do they normally operate?
He didn't package all that he said. He said he's moving to Gear 4.
Yes.
Because he was in Gear 3. He was in Gear 3. So he knew he was not performing at optimal.
He's performing, but he's taking it to another level.
If you're on Gear 3, you drive now. If you're on Gear 3, you're not performing optimally. And you have to move to Gear 4 for your car to stabilize, and if it's an aircraft, for you to now start cruising.
Yes.
So until you get there, you can't cruise. So what he's telling us is that he was performing below standard now, that he wants to now up the ante.
Yeah, putting words in his mouth.
That's what he said. That's exactly what he said. He said he's going to move to Gear 4, that he's in Gear 3 now. So what does that tell you? You don't need a soothsayer to interpret that for you now. He said it direct.
So are you confident you fulfill his promises to Ndi Anambra?
Well, Well, politicians are people who don't believe themselves, who get bewildered when others believe them. So if you believe a politician, you can. See, the late MKO said that he was not going to contest again. So when he picked the ticket of SDP, at the airport, journalists ran to him. Chief, you said you are not going to contest again. And he turned around and said, and you believe that? Then you are not a politician.
Wow.
So that's politicians for you.
I really like that quote. I think that quote is how we end this conversation. He says, politicians are people that don't believe themselves, that are bewildered
when others believe them. Yes, now.
Thank you, Professor Simeon Unna, for joining us today. Always a pleasure to have you.